The quarantine lights flickered above Quen Talbot's head as he stood just outside the reinforced glass partition, arms crossed, jaw tight. The wolf paced inside, its claws clicking against the metal floor with a rhythm that echoed down the corridor. It looked like a wolf mostly. Leaner than Earth's version, with streaks of bioluminescent blue running along its ribs and down its tail. Its eyes, a deep matte silver, never blinked. The tail twitched, long and whip-like, and a low growl hummed in its throat. "He's not hostile," Quen said, glancing over his shoulder at the cluster of alien veterinarians huddled behind him. "He just doesn't like being penned up." The tallest among them, a creature with translucent skin and a posture like a folding chair, leaned forward. "That thing is not of any known biosphere. Its vitals are unreadable. It has regenerative mucus on its claws. It punctured reinforced carbon alloy with a yawn." Quen scratched the back of his neck. "His name's Rollo. He likes belly rubs." The entire medical team recoiled in unison. "Is that a threat?" asked the short, bark-skinned one who had introduced himself as Dr. Half. "No," Quen gestured toward the control panel. "Open the door, I'll go in. He's just stressed." "No one goes in," Dr. Half said. "We analyze from outside. Sedation attempts failed. Even our ultrasonic neural dampener did nothing. And the bite's strength, he hasn't bitten anyone," Quen cut in. "He's not aggressive unless you act scared. He picks up on that." The folding chair one, Dr. Yill, emitted a low clicking sound that might have been a sigh. "You are the only one he responds to, but you are not a vet." "No, I'm not. But I've raised him since he was a pup. Found him on Vehlos Six after the crash. He was stuck in the wreckage, bleeding, half-starved. I didn't know what he was then either, but he was warm and he followed me." That was enough. The team stared at him, silent. "I'm going in," Quen said. Dr. Half blocked him. "You'll die." "I won't." They argued for another 10 minutes. Finally, with more hesitation than agreement, Dr. Yill tapped a sequence into the panel. The inner door hissed open. The moment Quen stepped inside, the wolf froze. Rollo's ears pricked forward, and his tail gave a single, sweeping wag. Then he bounded toward Quen, claws clacking, and leapt slamming into the man's chest hard enough to knock him off his feet. "Down, fuzzball," Quen muttered, laughing as he struggled back up. Rollo dropped to the ground, panting, and flopped onto his side, exposing his glowing belly. Quen crouched beside him and ran a hand through the thick fur. "See," he called through the glass. "He loves this." Dr. Yill looked faint. Later, Quen sat on a medical cot in the adjacent observation bay, a large bruise forming down his side from where Rollo had tackled him. Rollo lay curled nearby, tail thudding against the floor. Dr. Half approached hesitantly, carrying a scanner. "May I?" Quen nodded. "Just don't poke him." The scan began. Half's eyes widened almost immediately. "He's healing," Quen frowned. "He wasn't injured." "No," Half murmured. "But the stress readings, the elevated neuromodulator levels, he was deteriorating. Isolation was killing him." "Well, yeah," Quen said. "He's social." Dr. Half adjusted the scanner. "This creature is not just social, he's empathically linked to you, biochemically. His stress mirrored yours. Did you suffer any recent trauma?" Quen hesitated. "I broke 2 ribs 3 weeks ago." "Minor shuttle accident. Didn't tell anyone." Rollo's ears twitched. "You didn't tell anyone?" Half asked. "I healed." "Humans don't heal that fast," Quen shrugged. "I'm not saying it was fun." Dr. Yill joined them with a tablet. "The bonding is deeper than we anticipated." "He's not just attached, he's dependent." Quen looked at Rollo. "He's family." "That's not a clinical category. It is for us." Suddenly the lights dimmed. An alert blared from the hallway. The entire room shifted into red emergency lighting. "What now?" Quen groaned, rising. A voice came in over the intercom. "Containment breach in Lab Sector 4. Unknown entities released. All personnel to lockdown." Dr. Half's bark skin paled. "Lab 4 is where we keep the Vehlos specimens." Quen's face darkened. "That's where Rollo's species samples came from, isn't it?" "Yes." Before anyone could stop him, Quen grabbed his utility belt and sprinted out. Rollo was right behind him. The corridor was chaos. Smoke poured from a ruptured ventilation duct. A security drone skidded past, sparking and useless. Quen ducked under a falling panel and sprinted toward the breach. Rollo ran ahead, snarling. When they reached Lab 4, the door had already been torn off. Inside, three creatures, two-legged, skin like coiled kelp, eyes like hollow pits skittered over the walls. One of them hissed at the sight of Quen. The others turned. Quen raised his arms. "I don't want to fight you." They leapt. Rollo lunged first. He slammed into the nearest, sending it flying into a glass tank. The second dropped from the ceiling toward Quen, but the man rolled to the side, jarring his still tender ribs. Pain flared hot and sharp. He gasped, stumbling. The third creature darted toward him, but Rollo intercepted again, jaws snapping. Blood thick and dark splattered across the floor. Quen scrambled to the wall and hit the emergency override. Steel shutters slammed down over the exits. The fight lasted another minute. When it ended, two of the creatures were down, unmoving. The third had fled into the vents. Quen collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Rollo patted over, nudging his shoulder. "You okay?" Quen wheezed. Rollo licked his face once and flopped down beside him. It took hours to clean up the mess. The surviving creature never resurfaced. Quen was treated for cracked ribs still healing from before. The doctors insisted on a full medical workup this time. He didn't argue. Back in the observation chamber, Rollo lay curled beside the cot, chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Doctor half entered, tablet in hand. "We've decided." Quen raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "About Rollo. He's not a specimen, he's a sentient partner, a living being with rights." "You were right to keep him out of that lab. He saved lives." Quen exhaled. "Thanks," Dr. Yill added, "but we still won't approach him." Quen chuckled. "Fair." Rollo rolled onto his back, tail wagging lazily. Doctor half stepped back again. "Is he asking for a belly rub?" Quen grinned. "Yeah, you could try." Half clutched the tablet tighter. "No, thank you." Quen sat back against the cot, feeling the ache in his side but also the calm settling in his chest. Rollo's eyes blinked slowly, content. "Just don't put him in a cage again," Quen said. "He doesn't do well behind glass." Doctor half nodded. "Neither do you, it seems." Quen smiled. "Yeah, I guess neither of us were built for observation." Rollo sneezed once and stretched, paws twitching. It wasn't over, of course. Not with a missing creature still in the vents and a whole species' behavior left undocumented. But for now, Quen rested, Rollo beside him, and the station quiet once more. 3 days after the breach, Quen sat in Medical Bay 3 with his shirt unbuttoned and a cold diagnostic film wrapped tight around his ribs. The scanner beeped softly, reading bone density and inflammation. An amber light blinked over his left side, still tender but healing. The medic, a squat insectoid with compound eyes and a tendency to hum tunelessly under his breath, adjusted the film without looking up. "You humans," he said, his voice clicking through a translator disc, "are not built to be flung across the room by semi-feral alien fauna." Quen stared at the ceiling. He was excited. "I'll take a cracked rib over a silent treatment." The medic's forelimbs paused mid-adjust. "Your relationship with that creature is pathological." "He's not a creature, he's a person, just not the two-legged kind." The medic snorted. "He sheds like a collapsing star and left 3 technicians with stress ulcers. He is not a person." "He is a biohazard with feelings." Quen winced as the film tightened. "I'd rather deal with him than your scanner." "Don't blame the scanner for your density issues. I'm fine." "The pain's manageable. You have bone bruising, residual fluid buildup, and your pain receptors are firing like a lightning storm. You are clearly not fine." Quen leaned up on one elbow. "You ever tried telling a grieving wolf thing to wait outside while you get patched up?" The medic reached for a hypo spray. "No, but I did once administer stitches to a Valari sunfish while it tried to digest my glove." "Sounds worse." It was. At the door, a soft chime sounded. Dr. Yill entered, her translucent frame flickering faintly under the medical lights. She held a data slate in one hand and a sealed containment pouch in the other. "I need him," she said to the medic. "The advisory council has questions. He's not cleared for movement. He'll be sitting." "I don't sit well," Quen said, swinging his legs off the cot, "but I can lean dramatically if that helps." The medic muttered something untranslatable and stepped aside. The advisory room was quiet, overly lit, and smelled faintly of disinfected upholstery. 3 alien officials sat along one curved side of the table. A feathered being with a long, downturned beak, a gelatinous creature in a floating tank, and a tall, dry-skinned arboreal species who blinked horizontally. All wore the same expression humans often reserved for hearing someone had voluntarily eaten a century egg. Quen slouched into the seat across from them. Dr. Yill stood behind him. The beaked one spoke first. "Your companion, the quadruped, you claim ownership?" "No," Quen said. "We're bonded. That term is insufficiently defined. You ever had a best friend who'd tear a hole through a bulkhead to find you?" The creature blinked slowly. "No, then yeah, it's probably hard to explain." The tanked creature burbled. The translator clicked on. "We recovered data from Lab 4. The specimens were genetically identical to your companion, yet his behavior deviates significantly." Quen shrugged. "He was raised on human humor and leftover stew. That changes a guy." Dr. Yill placed the sealed pouch on the table. This was extracted from the injured specimen's mouth. It contains a partially digested memory capsule. The arboreal one leaned forward. Memory capsules are used by pack leaders among Vehlos predators. They encode behavioral patterns and territorial maps. The beaked alien tapped a claw against the table. "Which means your companion was a leader before he encountered you, possibly still is. Why would a leader abandon their pack?" Quen leaned back in his chair. "Maybe he didn't. Maybe he found a better one." The arboreal whispered something to the others. Dr. Yill remained still. "Are you aware," the tank thing asked, "that your bond may be suppressing or redirecting his natural instincts, that you may have altered him irreversibly?" Quen scratched his jaw. "He's not a circuit board. You don't flip a switch and change what he is. He chose me. I didn't trick him into anything." "What if those instincts return?" Quen met their eyes one by one. "Then I'll deal with them." The arboreal leaned back. "You already are." He bit through a containment drone's headplate. "You call that stress? Wouldn't you bite through a few things if your family got locked in a lab and poked with needles?" The beaked one sighed, a sharp exhale. "We are not here to assign blame. We are here to decide whether your presence aboard this facility constitutes a risk. I didn't climb into your station. You pulled me out of a wreck. You kept me because I had answers about him." "That is not inaccurate," the tank murmured. Dr. Yill tapped the slate. "There is another issue. The remaining escapee subject 22 has not been recovered. The ventilation system shows activity near the outer hydroponics." Quen stood. "Then we should go." The arboreal's voice dropped. "We have security teams. They don't know what they're dealing with." "You do." Quen looked over his shoulder. "Rollo does." 7 hours later, the hydroponics sector was sealed off under emergency code. Rows of alien crops, some with leaves like glass, others growing in spirals, stood eerily undisturbed. Sensors had picked up erratic pressure changes, but no heat signatures. A security drone had entered and not returned. Quen crouched behind a nutrient tank. Rollo crouched beside him. The glow from the wolf's ribs was dimmed, fur flattened. His eyes locked on the far end of the chamber. "See anything?" Quen whispered. Rollo's ears twitched. Then he crept forward, body low, tail stiff. Dr. Yill's voice came through the earpiece. "Thermal imaging is inconsistent. It's adapting to the environment." Quen followed Rollo, careful not to brush against the biosensitive vines. The air was thick with synthesized pollen. Every step felt like a dare. Near a cluster of fruiting stalks, Rollo stopped. His head tilted. Then, without warning, he barked a sound so loud and sharp it echoed off the hydroponic dome, a rustle, then a blur. The creature launched from the ceiling. Quen ducked as it passed overhead, claws scraping the metal. Rollo sprang upward, intercepting mid-air. They crashed against the floor, snarling and rolling. Quen ran toward them, yanking a tangle net from his belt. He waited just for the opening, and as Rollo pinned the thrashing beast, Quen fired. The net deployed mid-spin, wrapping both in a shimmering lattice. "Override initiated," Yill's voice snapped. "Tangle disarmed, you nearly caught your wolf." "I aimed low," Quen muttered, rushing forward. The hostile creature hissed, then went limp. Not dead, just exhausted. Rollo backed off slowly, fur-matted, breathing hard. Quen dropped beside him. "You good?" Rollo nudged his shoulder once, then sat down heavily, tail dragging. Dr. Yill and 2 security officers arrived minutes later. The arboreal official's voice chimed in over the comms. "We are adjusting your clearance level. Effective immediately, you and your companion are authorized for joint field operations under supervision." Quen wiped sweat from his brow. "That's supposed to be a reward. In this case, yes." Rollo yawned, exposing teeth that still glistened with fluid. One of the security officers stepped back. Quen grinned, tired. "He only bites the ones who run." Dr. Yill raised an eyebrow. "We'll be installing reinforced doors and hydroponics. Good call." As they walked out, Rollo limping slightly, Quen glanced up at the overhead lights. They flickered once, then steadied. He didn't know how long they'd be stuck on this station. But Rollo was beside him, and that made it bearable, even if the alien vets still refused to come within 6 feet of him. The morning after hydroponics was cleared, Quen stood in the decontamination chamber, arms raised, as a fine mist hissed down over him. It smelled faintly of magnesium and boiled spinach. Rollo waited outside the chamber, seated like a statue, his fur still matted from the fight. A mechanical scrubber hovered nearby, unsure whether it was brave enough to approach. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Dr. Yill asked from behind the console, her fingers tapping a sequence of commands. "Better now than when someone else gets hurt," Quen said. "I know he's fine." "You know he's fine, but they want proof." Dr. Yill adjusted the atmospheric balance and narrowed her eyes. "This isn't a behavioral evaluation. This is a formal compatibility clearance. If he fails, he won't." The chamber doors hissed open. Quen stepped out, still damp, and knelt beside Rollo. The wolf sniffed him, snorted, and nudged his arm with his nose. Dr. Yill handed him a thin collar-like device. "This will transmit his neurochemical data live to the council. It's non-invasive." Quen clipped it gently around Rollo's neck. The wolf shook once, fur puffing slightly, but made no effort to remove it. "Good boy," Quen said, scratching under his chin. Dr. Yill glanced at the data stream. "Heart rate steady, cortisol baseline. No sign of agitation. Because he knows he's being watched. He understands surveillance. He understands when he's being judged." They walked together down the corridor toward the behavioral suite. Rollo trotted beside Quen, tail sweeping low. A pair of technicians quickly flattened themselves against the wall as he passed. Inside the suite, the room was divided into 3 zones: environmental, social, and stress response. Each section was separated by transparent dividers, all controlled remotely. The council viewed everything from a sealed observation dome above. Quen crouched beside Rollo. "Okay, buddy. You've got 3 rooms to not terrify anyone in. Think you can manage that?" Rollo licked his chin. The first zone simulated a jungle environment, complete with artificial foliage and randomized sound cues. Quen stayed behind as Rollo entered. A series of drones tracked his movement. One of them emitted a high-pitched trill meant to mimic a small prey animal. Rollo glanced at it, sniffed a tree stump, then sat down and yawned. Dr. Yill watched the monitors. He's not reacting, he's bored. The foliage rustled from a hidden panel. A mechanical predator leapt out, jaws snapping. Rollo didn't flinch. Instead, he stood, walked to the animatronic, and bit its leg off. Then he dragged it to a corner, lay on it like a pillow, and closed his eyes. Quen grinned. "I think that's a pass." The second zone contained 3 alien volunteers, each briefed extensively and covered head to toe in protective gel suits. One was a bipedal avian, another a slow-moving silicate species, and the third a quadruped with 6 eyes and a tendency to hum. Quen opened the door. Rollo entered cautiously. The avian stepped forward and offered a small fruit. Rollo sniffed it, then gently took it from the hand and dropped it near the quadruped. Then he lay down. The silicate creature extended a limb and touched his head. Rollo didn't move. His tail thumped once. Dr. Yill's voice came through the calm. No signs of aggression, minimal tension response. He's initiating social deference. Quen folded his arms. Told you, he's got manners. The final zone was the critical one, stress response. It simulated emergency conditions, alarms, flashing lights, even the scent of ozone. Quen entered with Rollo this time. As the lights dimmed and the siren started, Quen slumped to the floor, clutching his side. He'd removed the local pain suppressors earlier just enough to simulate real discomfort. He didn't fake anything. The sharp ache in his ribs flared instantly. Rollo was on him in seconds, not snarling, not pacing, just watching, tail low, ears back, breathing steady. Then, without warning, the floor beneath them tilted slightly. Part of the test. A panel dropped open and smoke hissed out. Rollo growled once, low and guttural. Then he stepped over Quen and pressed his body against him, shielding him from the opening. Dr. Yill's voice crackled through the earpiece. He's exhibiting protective behavior, no escalation. Heart rate elevated but controlled. The floor reset. The alarm ceased. The lights returned to normal. Quen leaned up slowly. That it? There was a pause, then the door opened. Dr. Yill met him outside, holding a data pad. They're clearing him. Quen let out a breath. And they want to interview you. About what? Dr. Yill hesitated. About how? Quen glanced down at Rollo, who was busy licking his own paw in complete disinterest. They think I trained him. They think you changed him, possibly permanently. They want to know if it's replicable. Quen ran a hand through his hair. He's not a product. He's not a project. He's a person who chose me. They don't understand that. Well, Quen said, turning back toward the corridor, then maybe we start there. 3 hours later, he sat in the council's chamber again, but this time, Rollo was curled beside him, eyes closed, tail occasionally twitching. The avian leaned forward. You claim emotional bonding can override predatory instinct. I'm not claiming anything. I'm showing you that's him. That's what he is when you stop treating him like a misfiring weapon. The arboreal spoke next. And if we encounter others like him? Wild. Unbonded, Quen shrugged. Then you keep your distance, or you offer them stew and try belly rubs. Worked for me. The tanked creature let out a low series of gurgles. We find your methods unorthodox. Quen grinned. That's just a fancy word for we didn't think of it first. Dr. Yill stepped forward. The council has agreed to update its classification. The Vehlos species will be designated non-hostile under bonded conditions. Subject Rollo is granted full biometric clearance for movement within designated zones. Quen raised an eyebrow. Designated zones, not the cafeteria. Fair. A new voice piped up from the corner. A young technician, thin as a reed and visibly sweating, held up a slate. There's been a request from the educational division. They want to study the bond, use it in curriculum. Quen blinked. You want to make him a case study, the technician swallowed. No, a visiting lecturer. Quen looked at Rollo. Rollo yawned. Sure, Quen said. He's got a lot to teach. The council recessed. Quen and Rollo left together, walking side by side down the now familiar corridor. A small maintenance droid zipped past, paused, turned, and offered Rollo a squeaky ball. Rollo took it. Gently. Quen laughed. Back in their quarters, Rollo curled into his usual spot by the bunk. Quen sat beside him, rubbing his belly with slow, even strokes. The wolf's tail thudded once, then again. You know, Quen said, they thought you were going to bite someone today. Rollo gave a quiet huff. But instead, you gave a lecture. Rollo rolled over, paws twitching. Quen lay back on the bunk, staring at the ceiling. The hum of the station was soft now, no alarms, no breaches, no arguments. Not bad for a wolf with glowing ribs, he said. Rollo let out a soft snore. And for the first time since the crash on Vehlos Six, Quen let himself relax completely. Not because it was quiet, not because the doors were finally open, but because someone who'd never said a word had proven everything that needed saying.